For every woman who has ever laid awake at night, listening to the silence in her home, and asked the terrifying question, "Are we going to make it?" This is for you. We are told that love is a mystery, that the fate of a marriage is unknowable, a chaotic dance between two hearts that can either last a lifetime or shatter without warning. But what if it isn't a mystery? What if, for decades, a secret research facility has been decoding the hidden language of relationships, identifying the precise signals that predict collapse? What if I told you that a team of scientists learned how to listen to a couple argue for just 5 minutes and predict, with over 90% accuracy, whether they would still be together in 10 years? This is not a guess. It is a diagnosis. This is the story of the secret code that governs love and heartbreak, and the 4 signals that reveal the future of a marriage. A marriage is the most complex alliance 2 human beings can form. It is a living system, an intricate web of emotion, finance, and shared history. When it thrives, it is a fortress. When it fails, the collapse is catastrophic. For years, the science of why one alliance holds while another disintegrates was a black box. Therapists could offer theories, but no one could offer certainty. No one could predict the future, until one man decided to try. His name was Dr. John Gottman. He was not a traditional therapist. He was a mathematician and a psychologist, a unique hybrid who believed that even something as messy and chaotic as human love must have underlying patterns. He believed that if you could gather enough data, you could crack the code. And so, he built a laboratory. But this was no ordinary lab. It came to be known as the Love Lab. It was an apartment in Seattle, wired for observation like a high-security intelligence outpost. It was equipped with one-way mirrors, video cameras, and biometric sensors designed to measure heart rate, sweat production, and other physiological responses. It was a human behavior analysis facility designed for one mission: to find the mathematical signature of a failing marriage. Over the course of decades, he and his team brought in hundreds of couples. They would ask them to have a simple, 15-minute conversation about a point of conflict in their relationship, a disagreement about money, chores, or in-laws. And as they talked, the team recorded everything. Every word, every subtle shift in tone, every micro-expression that flickered across their faces. They were gathering terabytes of data on the dynamics of human conflict. At first, the data was just noise, a chaotic storm of arguments and emotions. But as Gottman and his team analyzed thousands of hours of these interactions, they made a groundbreaking discovery. It wasn't what the couples were fighting about that mattered. Happy couples and unhappy couples fought about the exact same things. The difference, the variable that predicted everything, was how they fought. And among the noise of these arguments, he found a signal. For distinct signals, in fact, for specific communication styles that were so toxic, so corrosive to the foundation of a partnership, that their consistent presence acted as a lethal poison. He called them the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And where they rode, relationships died. The first horseman to arrive on the battlefield is often the quietest. It seems harmless, even justified. It is called criticism. A complaint is not criticism. A complaint focuses on a specific event. I was worried when you didn't call to say you'd be late. A complaint is manageable. But criticism is not about the event. It is a global attack on the character of the other person. It sounds like this: "You never think about me. You're so selfish. Why are you always so irresponsible?" Let's imagine a scenario. A wife is waiting for her husband. He arrives an hour late. A complaint would be, "I was scared something had happened to you, and I felt hurt that you didn't let me know." The focus is on I. But criticism launches a direct assault. "You are always late. It's because you are completely thoughtless and you just don't care about me or my time." The focus is on you. It is the difference between saying this action you took was a problem and you are the problem. When criticism becomes a regular feature in the conversation, it is the opening salvo in a destructive war. It is an act of accusation, and it forces the other partner onto the defensive. It does not invite a solution. It invites a counterattack. And that is when the second horseman is summoned. The second horseman rides in response to the first. It is the natural and deeply destructive partner to criticism. It is called defensiveness. Defensiveness is a way of shielding oneself from a perceived attack. But it is not a passive shield. It is an active countermeasure that often takes the form of righteous indignation or innocent victimhood. It is a refusal to accept any responsibility for the problem. Let's return to our scenario. The wife has just launched the criticism. You're so selfish. You never think about me. The defensive response is not, you're right, I should have called. I'm sorry. Instead, it is a counterattack. It's not my fault. The traffic was a nightmare. You're always overreacting. I can't do anything right for you. Or, it takes the form of playing the victim. I had the most stressful day at work. I'm doing my best, and all I get when I come home is you attacking me. Do you see the pattern? Defensiveness is a way of saying, the problem isn't me, it's you. It is a deflection of all responsibility. When one partner offers criticism and the other responds with defensiveness, the conversation is no longer about the original issue. It has become a toxic, circular argument about who is to blame. They are trapped in a doom loop. And what happened next shocked even the experts in Gottman's lab. They found that this criticism-defensiveness loop was a powerful predictor of failure on its own. But when this loop is allowed to spin for months or years, the entire emotional climate of the relationship begins to change. The respect erodes. The affection curdles. And that is when the third, and by far the most dangerous horseman, makes its appearance. This is where things get even more intense. Gottman identified this third horseman as the single greatest predictor of divorce. He called it the sulfuric acid of love. It is called contempt. Contempt is not just criticism. It is disgust. It is communicating from a position of moral superiority. It is the intention to insult, to belittle, to psychologically wound your partner. It is poison. Contempt manifests in many forms. It is sarcasm. It is cynicism. It is hostile humor at your partner's expense. It is mockery, mimicking their voice. And most powerfully, it is in the nonverbal cues, the sneer, the snide look, and the roll of the eyes. That single, dismissive eye roll is so loaded with contempt that it has become a famous signal in Gottman's research. Let's go back to our couple. The argument has escalated. The wife now looks at her husband, not with hurt, but with disdain. He tries to explain about the traffic again, and she says with a sneer, "Oh, right, the traffic. Of course. It's always something, isn't it? It must be so hard being you." That is contempt. It is a statement of worthlessness. It is saying, you are beneath me. Gottman's research found something terrifying about contempt. Couples who consistently showed contempt for each other had weaker immune systems. Their bodies were more prone to illness. The psychological poison was manifesting as a physical reality. Contempt doesn't just kill love, it makes you sick. When a relationship is saturated with contempt, it is on life support. But there is one final horseman, and it is the most ominous of all, because it is silent. The fourth horseman is stonewalling. Stonewalling is what happens when one partner, usually in response to contempt, shuts down. They withdraw from the interaction completely. They are no longer fighting. They are no longer engaging. They have emotionally and psychologically abandoned the conversation. In our scenario, the husband, wounded by the contemptuous remark, now says nothing. He turns away. He picks up his phone. He stares at the television. He may give monosyllabic answers, fine, whatever, but he is gone. The connection has been severed. This is not the same as taking a time out to cool down. Stonewalling is a consistent pattern of disengagement. The stonewaller is not trying to calm the situation. They are trying to escape it. Their body is in a state of extreme physiological distress, a state Gottman calls flooding. Their heart rate is elevated, their adrenaline is pumping, and their brain has switched from rational thought to pure fight or flight. And in this case, it chooses flight. When stonewalling becomes a habit, the relationship is effectively over. It has become a cold war, two people coexisting in a shared space, but no longer in a shared life. It is the final, lonely stage before the end. This leads us to the climax, the moment of unbelievable predictive power. After analyzing thousands of these interactions, Gottman and his team could identify the presence of these four horsemen with terrifying accuracy. They saw the cascade. Criticism begets defensiveness. The loop of criticism and defensiveness, over time, breeds contempt. And contempt, in its final, soul-crushing phase, leads to stonewalling. It was this cascade, this predictable pattern of decay, that allowed them to make their prediction. They could listen to a couple for as little as 5 minutes, code their interaction for the presence and frequency of these four behaviors, and predict, with up to 95% accuracy, whether that couple would be divorced 6 years later. They had cracked the code. They had found the mathematical signature of heartbreak. But this knowledge is not a death sentence. It is a diagnosis. And a diagnosis is the first step toward a cure. For every horseman, Gottman also identified its antidote. The antidote to criticism is a gentle startup, complaining without blaming. The antidote to defensiveness is taking responsibility, even for a small part of the problem. The antidote to contempt is to build a culture of appreciation, actively scanning for things your partner does right. And the antidote to stonewalling is physiological self-soothing, learning to recognize when you are flooded and taking a break to calm down before re-engaging. This discovery gives us a choice. It gives us a map of the battlefield and a guide to the landmines. By learning to recognize these force signals in our own relationships, we are no longer flying blind. We have an early warning system. We can see the storm clouds gathering on the horizon and make a different choice. We can learn to speak the language of connection instead of the language of collapse. The future of your marriage is not a mystery written in the stars. It is being written every day in the small, seemingly insignificant moments of interaction between you and the person you chose. The power to predict the future is also the power to change it. And the truth is, this story isn't finished yet. The presence of these horsemen is a critical warning, but the final chapter is still waiting to be written by you.